Hi, I would like to start this off by saying my name is James Smith. I am 26 years old. I live in a small town in Illinois named Clinton. I have lived here for most of my life. I had moved into this town when I was 6, right after my dad had passed away from cancer, and my mom lost pretty much everything after that. So she wanted to start fresh here, because we have family that lives here in this town. So she took up the offer of help, so that we would have a roof over our heads. It was hard for me at first to move to a new town and a new school, while still being upset and depressed that my dad had just passed away. I got used to it though, made new friends, even got married and had 2 kids. But there is something off about this town. There is a rule that everyone is made to follow. This is why I am writing this right now. Our family broke that rule. If you hear the sound of ringing outside between the times of 1:30 a.m. and 3:30 a.m., do not look out the windows, no matter what. I had never known what they meant by this, or why we had to follow it. Every time I would ask my mom, pure dread flushed through her face, and she would scream at me. Just follow the rules, sweetie, so you can keep you and mommy safe, okay? So I listened and followed it, without much thought at all, up until last night. This is where this story begins. It was a cold winter night here in Illinois, like usual. It was right for the time of year, which it was an October night. I was getting ready for bed, tucking in my 2 younger boys. I walked out of the room quietly, closing the door and turning off the hallway light. I made my way down the hall and into the kitchen where my wife was sitting and smoking a dimly lit cigarette. "Hey sweetie, did you put the kids to bed?" she said with a smile as she proceeded to take another drag from her cigarette. "Yeah, I put them to sleep," I said in an exhausted tone. The room went quiet for a second. The only sound that could be heard was the ceiling fan that was on high above us. My wife looked down at her ring and sighed. "How much longer, James? How much longer until we can get out of this damn town?" I walked over to the cabinet and opened it, grabbed out a bottle of Jack Daniels and proceeded to pour myself a glass, and sat on the other side of the kitchen table. "I don't know, honey. I'm freaked out about the disappearances too, you know. I want our kids to be able to live safely and comfortably too," I said in an irritated manner. "And this damn rule is making it so much more difficult. That's why we put earplugs in their ears while they sleep," I screamed. I picked up my glass and finished it in one go. I got up and walked to the kitchen, looking out into the darkness and thinking about what we should do. "Let's move to Springfield. It's a lot safer there," my wife stated in a desperate tone. "Alright, we'll start looking for places in the morning," I said with a fake smile on my face. We started walking towards the bedroom. We both got ready for bed and laid down and went to sleep for the night. I woke up to the sound of my alarm buzzing. I sat up and looked around. My wife was still sleeping, so I got out of bed and went to go check on the kids. They were still sleeping as well. I closed their door and walked into the kitchen. I got out our old dusty laptop and went onto the web to try and find us a new home in Springfield, or pretty much anywhere at this point. I marked down the ones I liked the most, and looked a little more, and then shut the laptop and put it back onto the table in the living room. I had to be to work in an hour, so I got ready and ate some cereal, and made my way to work. While driving, I heard on the radio there had been another disappearance in our town. A 10-year-old boy had gone missing in the middle of the night. And if you had any information, please call the local police department. God, another one. "We need to get the hell out of this town," I said in a panicked voice. "I work at the old warehouse on the edge of town. I didn't have much of a special job, just doing the normal stuff like using a forklift or moving around crates and packages all day. But the pay was good, so I had stuck with this job for years now." I pulled up and got out of my car and walked in. My day was uneventful. I just did the normal routine that I had done thousands of times. It was 6 p.m. now. I put my work clothes into my locker and started heading to my car. I drove home and walked into the house. My wife came and greeted me at the door with a smile on her face. "How was work, babe?" she asked in a joyful tone. "It was good. Did you hear there was another disappearance in town?" I said. The room went quiet, and we both had a moment of silence and walked to the kitchen. "I'm going to call the housing unit in the morning and schedule a meeting," I said in a serious tone. We went to bed that night, and in the morning, I woke up. I shut off the alarm and went to head out into the kitchen to make myself a cup of coffee. I got the laptop out and picked the house we were going to move to. I called them and we talked over the details, and all I had to do was go and fill out the paperwork now. I got dressed and rushed out the door. I arrived at the place a couple hours later. I was greeted by a really nice woman. She had long black hair and was about 5'5", and was in a pretty blue dress. "Hi, you're James, correct?" she said in a cheerful manner. "Ah, yes. It's nice to meet you," I said. "Here, come with me. I'll give you a tour of the place before we sign the papers over to you," she said. We walked into the house and began to look around. "It's nice," I thought to myself. While we were walking around, I started thinking about all the good memories we can make in this house. I smiled for real for the first time in a while. We got done with the tour and I signed the papers. She handed me the house keys and we shook hands. She got in her car and drove off. I sat on the porch for what seemed like hours. "Oh crap, it's starting to get dark," I said to myself. I got up and got into my car and started my way back home. Like before, it took me around a couple hours to get back home. As I was pulling up, the clock read 10:30 p.m. Something didn't seem right though. All the lights were off in the house. Normally, my wife would be up, waiting for me in the kitchen while the lights are on. I quickly got out of my car and ran up to the door. "It's locked," I said in a frightened tone. I locked it before I had left. I laughed at myself. Maybe Maya had to go out and run some errands while I was gone. I walked into the door, and it was pitch black. I looked around, and I started to call for my wife and kids. No response. I started to get scared, and then I flipped on the light, and my heart sank through my chest. My wife was laying on the floor in a puddle of blood. I screamed her name and I ran over to her. I checked her pulse and started to cry. She was dead. I got up and ran into my kids' room, and they were nowhere to be found. The window had been smashed, and it appears like there had been a struggle of some sort. How could this be happening? We were so close, I said while screaming and crying, when from behind me, I heard large footsteps and the sound of ringing coming from whatever was behind me. It's only 10 p.m. The ringing isn't supposed to be here yet, I thought as I sat there frozen in fear. A loud voice boomed from behind me. Your son broke the rule. Now you will all be punished. I turned around in anger and saw something that would haunt me the rest of my life. A tall, slender, and deformed creature was standing behind me. It had long talons like fingers and razor-sharp teeth, and it was huge. It had to be around 8'4". It was holding my youngest boy by the throat. My boy was lifeless and had an expression of fear on his face. "What the hell did you do to my family?" I screamed at the top of my lungs at the creature. "Like I said before, they broke the rule. I changed the time by a little, I hope you don't mind." It smiled out of joy, and I blacked out at that moment. I woke up lying on the floor face first. It took a second to collect myself. I quickly snapped back into reality and sat up. "Maya, boys," I called out, but then remembering the night before, I stood up and dialed 911. When they arrived, they took my statement and a missing persons report was put in place. After they left, I drove back to the house where we were once going to live in and sat on the porch and started to cry. Then I heard my youngest boy call out from the woods, "Daddy, help me." I shot up and bolted towards the sound of his voice, calling out his name. No response. My mind must be playing tricks on me, I thought to myself. I fell to the ground and gave up. A year has passed, and I am currently living in the new house. I couldn't handle going back to that other house. Every time I did, that night kept replaying in my head, and it drove me crazy. I can't get over the fact that if I would have been there for them, they wouldn't be dead. At night, I always have the same dream, walking into that damned house and trying to save them, but I can't. It almost feels like that thing I had seen that night doesn't want me to forget and move on. I'm in its sick little game. At night, I can hear what I can only imagine is him, walking back and forth, and that damn ringing doesn't stop. It never does. I have been tempted to just look out the window, but I just can't bring myself to do it. That's what he would want. He wants me to look out just to show me a sickening scene of my family. I know I don't have much time left. I just can't take it anymore. So I'm recording this to warn you. If you ever move into Clinton, Illinois, never break the one rule. You'll regret it for the rest of your life.